Hey everyone, this is Thomas with Bentwood Ring Supplies, and we're back with another video showing you how we made our latest subscription box ring, Twin Saber. The double helix blank has two 2mm channels that wind around the ring in a helical pattern, and they cross over each other at 4 different intersections. We're going to be filling those channels with blue and green glow powder, and the entire design hinges on how we handle those intersections. I think you can probably guess what these were inspired by, but I'm not going to say it out loud. Some items you may need on hand if you're new to this are a thin CA glue and activator, one of our slow speed ring turners for finish application, and a lathe of some sort for sanding and polishing. I'm starting with blue glow powder. I'm just tapping the powder into the channel and working my way around. My first goal is to just get the inlay started, and in order to do that, I'll need to get this first pile of material glued down. I've put a small puddle of thin CA on a poly bag, and I'm taking my inlay adjuster, dabbing it lightly into the CA, and then transferring just that tiny amount onto the powder I've placed in the channel. This gives me incredible control. I don't want CA running around the band, so this lets me lock down what I want and leave everything else alone. Once I've got the edges and ends of a section controlled, I can apply a single delicate drop of CA to fully seat the rest of the powder in that section. I'm taking the blue powder through one of the 4 intersections on the ring and making sure not to let the powder go into the opposing section, which will hold the green powder. We want those edges to be as crisp as possible. I'm continuing the blue powder up to the next intersection, and I'm squaring it off at the end. The green powder will flow through this intersection. The last bit of work on this part is taking the blue glow powder down to the next intersection below. Okay, this is the part of the build that the entire ring depends on. I'll explain the weave. This ring blank has 4 intersections where the 2 helical channels cross each other. At every single one of those, we have to decide which color goes over and which goes under, and they have to alternate, over, under, over, under. I'm starting now with our green glow powder in the adjacent channel. I'll need to be extra mindful at every intersection so that I don't get much or any of the green powder on the blue, because we want our colors to be distinctly separate. At the first intersection the blue went over, I'm using my inlay adjuster to gently coax the green powder down into the channel and butting it up into the blue. I'm using the same polybag CA pickup technique as before, a tiny dab on the inlay adjuster, transfer it onto the powder right at the edge of the intersection so we can lock it in place without flooding it. I'll fill the channel moving forward toward the next intersection, but here I'll go all the way through, making sure that our edge that's adjacent to where the blue powder begins again is as crisp as possible. Once I've got that squared away, I'll continue on through with the green powder to the next intersection and stop it. This completes our pattern. I will carry on around the ring repeating this pattern until it's complete. Take your time at every single intersection. This is the moment where the design either reads clean or it doesn't, and there's no real fixing it once we put a finish coat over the top of it. Now here's the most important rule of this entire build, and honestly any powder inlay build, that you can't cut back. Keep your inlay material below the shoulders of the channel. Be deliberate with your placement, and use your inlay adjuster to press anything down that's sitting too high, or remove material if necessary. Take the time to do this now and ongoing throughout the build. Future you will thank present you. I did this next part off camera, but I took a toothbrush and used it to make sure I didn't have any errant glow powder in areas it shouldn't be. After cleaning it all off, it's time for finish application. Now that both colors are inlaid and we've checked to see that nothing is sitting above the shoulders, I've moved over to our slow speed ring turner. Quick note before we dive in, on most of our channel ring builds, I take this ring back to the lathe right now and cut the inlay 0.5 to 0.7 millimeters below the channel shoulders to make room for a thicker finish coat. We're not doing that here because that only really works for standard channels, whereas these are curved. I'm starting with a flood coat of thin CA to fully lock the powder in place, just in case there's any other areas that it could soak in. After that, I'm switching over to thin flex CA for the build coats. The rule here is thin layers, gentle spritz of activator from 6 to 8 inches away, and be sure to wick the drop away that forms on the bottom of the ring between coats. That drop is actually doing work for you. It helps the CA distribute evenly across the ring as it spins, and once you pull it off, you're left with the maximum amount of CA that's going to stay on the ring. So let it do its job, then take it away. Don't get aggressive with the activator. CA cured too fast is CA cured hot, and hot CA will cloud up on you. We need a crystal clear finish here because the whole point of this build is for the glow powder to shine through. I've sped the video up pretty significantly at this point because watching CA cure isn't anyone's idea of a good time. This part probably took me close to an hour. I'm building up layer by layer until the finish is sitting just slightly proud of the channel shoulders, and that's when I know we have enough material to sand back to flush. Alright, here we are at sanding and polishing again. I know, but this is one of the parts of the build that separates a great ring from an okay ring, so we're going to give it the same care we always do. I've moved to my wood lathe and mounted the ring on one of our silicone ring mandrels. The orange tool you'll see me using is a sanding stick. Sandpaper sits on it and gives me a flat substrate to apply the sandpaper to the ring. I'm working my way through 120, 240, 320, and 400 grit sandpaper. I'm wet sanding the whole way through. The mantra here is keep it wet, keep it moving, and keep it clean between each grit. Hot CA hazes or melts. A sandpaper that's loaded with old grit will scratch you back down a step, and a sanding stick that wanders too long in one spot will dig a divot you'll regret. I make sure that 400 grit is the one that takes the CA flush with the metal. That gives us the thickest possible finish in the channel where it actually matters. From there I move into Zona paper, which starts around 600 grit equivalent and finishes around 22,000 grit equivalent. Take your time, work each step thoroughly, and don't rush. A polish that's been rushed is a polish that shows it. Lastly, I'm using the final 2 or 3 grits of our diamond polishing paste, and this unifies the finish across the metal and the CA and just brings everything together. Once that's done, I'm cleaning the ring off with isopropyl alcohol to lift any of the diamond paste residue, which is oil-based, and we are ready for the moment we've all been waiting for. The blue and green helices wrap around your finger like, well, I said I wasn't going to say it out loud. It's a really cool ring. So this ring was our May 2026 subscription box ring. We send out a curated box every month with a new ring design and all the materials, supplies, and tools you need to follow along and make it with us. If you want to join us in making this ring, check us out at bentwoodringsupplies.com. If you fell in love with this one and want to pick up a finished version, I'll have them up for sale on our sister site, formandforgeddesigns.com. All links below. Please take a moment to subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more ring making content, and as always, thank you so much for your support. I'll see you in the next one. May the 4th be with you.